Have you ever wondered how your sales performance compares against your competitors and peers? The B2B Sales Benchmark Report provides the definitive guide to what success looks like in 2021. See how you compare in terms of win rate, sales cycle, average deal value, relationships, and engagement. You can see the results and get the full report at ebsta.com/B2B-sales-benchmarks. This is Sales Ops Demystified, the #1 most downloaded podcast in sales operations. We invite the brightest minds in sales operations onto the show to deconstruct the why, what, and how behind rep productivity, forecasting, metrics, and all things revenue. This podcast is brought to you by Ebsta, the leading customer engagement platform for Salesforce. Welcome to another very special episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast and webinar. If you're watching live, feel free to add any questions. If you're listening later on, thank you so much. We're joined by Jorge Moto.
Correct.
Who is currently the Salesforce admin and sales operations manager at Ooyala. Welcome to the show, Jorge.
Thank you. Thank you.
So today I want to go into, well, we have a Salesforce admin here, so I'm going to try and get a bit more technical. I'm obviously not that technical, but I think it's a good opportunity.
Sure.
And I also want to go back into because you have an entrepreneurial history as well.
Correct.
And so I want to kind of go back into that experience and see if there's any sales operations lessons from that as well.
Okay.
So kick off with the first question. How did you get into sales operations?
Yeah, Tom, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm so honored and glad to be here. So, yeah, as you mentioned it, I have an entrepreneurial background, but also I'm a technical background, I'm an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, before joining to Ooyala, I used to have my own startup where I learned a lot about operations and sales. What we did with that startup, we were developing medical devices for lower limbs rehabilitation, right? So we closed this company. We had the company for 3 years. We generated intellectual property. So it was really nice, experience. I learned, again, a lot about operations and sales because I needed to take, the ownership of the company. Mm-hmm. Get out and sail and, do all the operations and many hats. You know what this entrepreneurial thing means. You always need to wear a lot of hats. Then I joined Ooyala and I started to doing some financial analysis.
So you joined in the finance team?
Yes, in the finance team. First of all, I joined like a contractor, just half-time, while I still had my company.
Yeah.
I was supporting the operations team, but basically I was helping the sales director in Mexico to get Mexican government grants. Because of that, then, the company moved into the financial team. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I, keep doing a lot of financial analysis. And I don't know, it was like probably 2 years when one of the first sales operations managers at the company approached to me and persuaded me to join a sales operations team, right?
Why did he approach you?
Well, he knew about that in Guadalajara, in Mexico, there were a lot of talented people. And also he liked my profile, right? It was business and technical side. I was managing operations and sales. Yeah, probably it was not the expert one, but I knew the technical, in the information about sales, how to sell, communicate with people, etc. But also this technical approach of my engineering profile. So because of that, he was kind of happy to approach. He invited me to join to his team. By the way, it was just he into the team, right? It was not.
And at that time, so you joined about 8 years ago.
Yes, correct.
So at the time when you first joined his sales operations team, how many salespeople were there? There was 2 of you in the operations team. And
salespeople or sales operations?
Salespeople.
I would say there were 15.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was not big, but still there was a considerable amount of people working in sales.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know nothing, to be honest, about sales operations and Salesforce when this guy just came by. So of course, we plan to have a really intense 1 week of training. So I traveled to California to meet him, the team, and start having this training. But there was a lot of unpredictable and out of control circumstances that I didn't have not even the quarter of the training, which was quite interesting. But moreover, this manager left the company 1 week after I moved to this position.
Yeah.
So as can you imagine, was like a challenging and interesting time.
Yeah.
Of course, the company didn't have time to onboard someone else, and they needed to do and speed up in activities of sales operations. So I didn't have another option but to speed up as well. So I started to read about sales operations in blogs or on internet. Started to listen to a lot of webinars, but also in Salesforce, right? I took some Trailheads Salesforce trainings, and also I started to talk a lot with the people. That was the best thing that I did, right? To start talking with people, all the stakeholders, SDRs, AEs, VPs, marketing, finance, legal team, and as much people as possible related to all sales processes. That was the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I was immersed in this, quite fascinating and always evolving sales operations work.
And now, how many salespeople? Well, how many people in the sales operations team? And then, how many salespeople do we have today?
Today we are just 2 in sales operations team, and salespeople we are around 15 as well, 10 to 15, 12 actually.
Okay, cool. And the current tech stack you're using to manage or to run the sales operations, I assume it's Salesforce.
Yes, of course, we are using Salesforce as our source of truth for many years. However, we have just recently decided to move out.
So, really?
Yeah. So now we are migrating everything to Soho CRM.
Why did you move?
Budget
circumstances, I haven't heard of Soho CRM, but I assume it's just a lower price point.
It's a really good one. Has many pros, I can tell you. Of course, the biggest one is the price. It's quite cheaper than Salesforce, but has really quite interesting tools and features that you can use and leverage your sales processes quite easily.
Got it.
Specifically related with productivity, right? You can really have an interesting workflows in there to guide your people through different activities or processes.
Okay, and anything else apart from Salesforce?
Of course. We have Suora, we have Sales Navigator, we have Financial Force, we have Marketo, Aviso, DocuSign, Jira as well. So we have a
cool. And your role is part of your role is managing all these applications and making sure they work effectively for the sales team.
Correct.
Cool.
Yeah.
And out of all of those, which is your favorite?
I like Sales Navigator. It's quite nice to interact and connect with people. And the way that it's connected to Salesforce is so easy. It's just an app that you need to install and do your instance, and that's it.
Nice. Data quality is always a challenge. Was that one of the considerations when you chose a new CRM? Or did you try and find a CRM that would be easier to manage data in, or was that?
Yeah, of course. And we have had many acquisitions during all these years in Ooyala. So we acquired 2 companies, and as you can imagine, we have import a lot of data, and many of this data hasn't been or was not curated before imported. So we ended up having a lot of legacy and duplicates. So of course, it's something important for us, and data quality is really task and hard, thing to do and work with. So we have this in consideration for choosing the CRM, but pretty much we are trying to start from scratch, kind of.
Okay. And with were there activities you were doing before that tried to manage or improve data quality, or like over the past 8 years? Like, what have you done that has been effective?
Yeah, well, we have tried many tools for duplicates and coincide processes, and it has been challenging, to be honest. And we have struggled basically because what I told you is a lot of data that we have imported just like boom, right? So, but we have implemented some processes by our own that have been working so far for us. So basically, we have done. We are doing still weekly audits, reviewing all data that is accurate and checking if it's, matching with the contracts, etc. We are using the duplicate management, out of the box Salesforce functionality. So far, we have been using it, super good for detecting duplicates mainly. We implemented pick list fields instead of text fields, right? So we can just have the same information across all the company, all the instance. We have implemented also formatting rules, conventions, naming convention rules as well. And also that something that we did and has been working really good is getting the field or the sales team involved in tagging at least duplicates.
Yeah.
So we just created a status. So every time that an AE is, just find a duplicate, that person just tags that duplicate. We get an email notification as a sales ops team, and we just come through and merge the records.
That's an example of something that you've made. You've a new process you need to implement, and you made it super simple for a salesperson to go and do that, right?
Correct.
So they'll actually do it. And so that's probably quite easy for you to persuade them to do.
Yeah.
But if you have something a bit more complex that you wanted a salesperson to do, how would you go about getting their buy-in to actually want to do it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we try to show them the value of this new process or tool, right? So like this, for them is good because they will have less duplicates to deal with and less confusion. But also we try, before rolling up the new tool or the new process, we are trying to get on board some evangelists, some leaders of the team, so they can play around with the tool in our sandbox instance. We gather a lot of feedback from them, so we can just adjust it before rolling up to the complete sales team. But also something that has worked really good for us is to involve an executive as a sponsor. So once you have a C-level executive, promoting and pushing, this tool to the team, and not just to the team, but the rest of the executive
that really
team.
helps.
Yeah, that really helps. It's like a domino effect, right? It's like a cascading effect. So that helps a lot. And also we are, always implementing training material. We are always available to the team to help them to one-to-one or walk-through sessions so they can feel comfortable with the tool.
Yeah, that's a really good. I haven't heard that many people say getting someone from C-level to endorse the new tool or process because they obviously really respect the sales operations department, right? But if it's like this, the CEO telling them to do the thing. We have a quick question here from Zach. What would you say, it's quite an open one, what would you say are the fundamentals of sales ops?
The fundamentals of sales ops?
Yeah.
Well, I think data accuracy is one of the fundamentals, right? You as a sales ops player, you need to look at this data quality. So if you have a really data quality, then you can report and manage this information wherever you would like to. But of course, to get to this data quality, you need to implement many things. So you need to have really good processes, establish the processes. So you can then have the data quality, and then you can measure the data quality. I would say, first of all, understand your processes, make them simple, implement them, and automate as much as possible so you can get as much as accurate data possible, and then you can measure that data.
So that's one core fundamental of sales ops is having good data.
Correct.
Got it. I hope that helps with the question, Zach. Moving on to, you have all these sales reps doing loads of different stuff. how are you currently trying to make them more, like what are you doing to make them produce more and be more productive?
Yeah, well, we are trying to make their lives simpler and easier, right, through our processes, without losing best practices, the goals, and our standards as a company. So that being said, we are automating a lot. We're trying to automate as much as possible. These tiny activities, routine activities.
Can you give us an example of one that you've automated that has made the team more productive?
For example, we have created a process in which once an opportunity is closed, a renewal opportunity is automatically created with, it's just a exact copy of the previous one with some information related with the future renewal. So they can just come to the system, review it, and even we implemented some email notification, right? So before certain days, let's say 180 days before the contract expires, we are sending notifications to the salespeople, hey, this will expire soon, so start talking with them.
So it's almost like taking some intelligence out of, like, making the system more intelligent so they can do less and they can just focus on outreach or calls.
Correct. Just in what they are really good at, selling. Go ahead. The system, leave it to us, to sales ops. We can do it.
Nice.
We can automate it.
Moving on to onboarding. Do you have any best practices for bringing new sales reps into the team?
Well, for onboarding, best practice is always to set up the licenses and make sure all licenses are, kind of accurate and up to date, so they can, as soon as possible, they can start using them and train them. That's the best thing. Just start training them. What we are doing or implementing is 2 days training, 1 hour each, sharing training materials. But also when it's necessary and we can see that people are struggling or just, forgetting about our processes, we are scheduling like refresher trainings. So train, and train your team as much as possible.
How do you think your engineering background and mindset helps in sales operations?
I would say, as an engineer, you can be really systematic, analyze the things and have really the procedure, right? So follow the steps. That's not a magic formula. Just follow the steps and you will be able to pretty much perform anything, right? So I think that mindset of engineer has helped me a lot, structure something in the system somehow could be easily to follow and easily to implement and manage. Also, this is something important I will to say. When we are thinking on implementing a new tool or a new process, of course, we are thinking about the sales team, how we are going to make their lives easier, but also we have in mind the way that it will be simpler and easier for us to admin, because then it could be a nightmare. I can tell you, we have been in that situation and it's a nightmare. So we need to think about us as well, right? So this engineering mindset of have the big picture about everything has helped me a lot.
And because if you think about what engineers actually do, right, they are building systems like a car or a software application. These are systems. And so you're taught systems when you're learning how to be an engineer. And so what you're saying then is that your sales operation is a system that you guys are responsible for building and maintaining.
Correct.
Right, is that it?
And it's, as a whole, we are not just touching sales. Sales operations, as you may know, is evolving a lot. That now in the companies is not just particular in sales, it's in marketing, services, support, billing. There's many areas where sales operations are touching.
And then my next question is, how do you think your experience as a founder of a business helps you in sales operations?
To understand the operations per se, right, and sales, you need to be also not so square-minded. You need to be open, and most likely, and most important, you need to communicate properly your ideas to the rest of the team. It could be because you are going to train them, or because you are listening to them to gather all the requirements and then translate them, right? So I'm using a lot these business skills to, soft skills that you can talk to them or persuade them to continue the process, or, they're having a lot of time that they are saying, no, but, this is the deal calculation. This should be, and I'm running my calculation. Say no, is this because of this, and this? But you need to persuade somehow so they can buy it and say, okay, that's true. I can see the point, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
soft skills.
Correct.
Yeah. KPIs. What KPI are you currently using to measure your sales reps, or what are the most important ones?
Well, we are, every single department has their own. We are, as a sales ops, focusing on client retention, basically the value of our renewals, contract value, which is the value of new deals coming in, bookings forecast. So basically, we are looking at the amount of our pipe, commit, pipe, best case scenarios, so we can forecast and have an accurate amount of what we can close during the quarter. And also pipe duration. We implementing SLAs to track every single stage, so we can know, how much time, and we benchmarking this with the industry and see, based on our business process, how much time do we need to have at every single stage, and based on that we can even automate, right? So let's say this automation that we did is after 90 days in every single stage, we automatically qualified out opportunities or the more than one stage, so we can keep the data accuracy and
so an example of that is if an opportunity has been at this stage for more than 90 days, you would send an email to the sales rep and you would take the opportunity backstage
automatically. Of course, we are sending a notification before, right? Every 30 days, 60 days, we're sending, hey,
really,
it's 30
that's
days.
Cool. So you're really guiding the salespeople through the process, right?
Yeah,
it's like they're almost your customers, and you are trying to not influence them, but you're trying to take away as much of the admin stuff. Mm-hmm. They don't have to go and check their pipeline every morning to see what they should work on because they're being alerted.
Correct. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. They are getting this notification.
How popular do you think the sales operations team is with the sales team at the moment out of 10?
I would say we are so popular, 9. I wouldn't say 10, but 9. But this is also because of the relation that we have built, right? Because of these soft skills, it's so important to as everything in life, you need to have really good connection and communication with people. That's what matters, network. So you need to talk with them, be polite. Always, we are a really open team as sales ops. We are always there to help them, even out of business hours. We are there to help them. So that I think the people are the things that they are appreciating, and of course we have a good relation.
And then what, out of all those metrics, if you could only use one to measure your sales team, which one would you choose?
I would like to say that the contract value, because that way you can see, how you are growing, how many deals are you, winning and moving through the pie.
So total contract value.
Correct.
That salesperson has closed in the past 6 months.
Quarter or whatever.
Okay, cool. Nice. And so that's the one metric. That kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like how valuable are they to the business?
Correct.
Awesome. We have one more question, and then I'll have my final question. So this is from Zach again. Can you explain about the relationship between the business strategy and building that data into the sales process? Does that make sense?
So, it's explaining
the importance of the relationship between the business strategy and, so basically the strategy of the business and then feeding that into the sales process. Like, how have you done that before? Is that relationship important?
Yeah, of course, you have, as a whole, as a company, you have your strategy, and you need to map this in the system or, through your sales processes. So what we are doing currently in Salesforce is trying to do this and automate this strategy as a whole, the piece that is related to sales, put in the system and try to take the salespeople from the equation as much as possible with this automation, so they can just focus on this part of sale the product and close deals. But everything that can be automated, which is routinary activities, some processes that just filling this information, making sure this is accurate, whatever data quality. We are trying to make this easier for them, and this will of course impact the global strategy as a business.
Got it. And final question, is there anyone out there who's really influenced you or inspired you in sales operations?
Yeah, my team has been the one that I feel more inspired to, and they're amazing, right? So specifically, one of my previous managers, Monica Berman, she taught me a lot about sales operations and best practices. But most important, I learned from her the importance of sales operations team in a company. So just to put it in a perspective, let's say we have an ecosystem, right? We have stakeholders, vendors, apps, the CRM, and other tools, processes, all of them interacting with each other, right? But it's because of sales operations team that all of them are keeping breathing.
Totally agree.
Sales operations is the air around this ecosystem. We are touching pretty much everything. So that's so important, to have. And I think now companies are understanding that, and more they're even onboarding sales ops teams since the beginning, not just as a medium stage, but since they start as a startup, so which is really, really good and fundamental. Also, my ex-colleagues, Angels and Daniel, I have learned a lot from them of Salesforce and data quality and data analysis. And my current colleague, Ines, she's brilliant doing project management and gathering all the requirements. She's really good. So I think we have been doing a really good team. So the team is
great. Okay, so that brings us to the end. Here's some things I liked. Mentioning all the email automation stuff and kind of trying to make the system intelligent so that the salespeople can just do what they're good at. I liked the point about, or the final quote about how sales operations is the air around the ecosystem of the business.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. And then the final thing was about, bringing this C-level stakeholder in when you're trying to implement a new process for the sales team to really add weight to the thing that you want them to do.
Yeah.
George, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you to you.
And thank you to everybody who attended live.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. If you are listening on a podcast listening application, then please subscribe, rate, and review. And if you have any questions about the show, if you know a guest, or if you have any questions about sales operations, just hit me up at tomhunt@ebster.com. That's tomhunt@ebster.com.